And we welcome you to the Pat Sullivan Center here in Joliet, Illinois for St. Francis women's basketball, the third home game of the season for the Fighting Saints. Welcome as the Goshen Maple Leafs come to town to take on your Fighting Saints of St. Francis. My name's Kyle Mathis, and welcome to the broadcast. Here should be a pretty fun night between two pretty competitive teams. St. Francis obviously looking to continue their hot run of form. They're 4-0 right now. They're unbeaten. And Goshen just trying to get things started in their season. They got a win, but they're 1-4. They've had a really, really tough schedule, and they're just looking to get things going with a big upset win here over the Fighting Saints. Coach John McGinty of St. Francis was really no stranger to say that Goshen has had a really, really tough schedule so far in this season. They've actually played two CCAC conference opponents this season that St. Francis will actually have to play as the season progresses. They lost to IU South Bend, who's obviously been a super, super good team in the CCAC over time. And then Goshen also, they beat Viterbo, who St. Francis will obviously have to play at some point in the season. But St. Francis, on the other hand, has had a pretty good time so far this season, and they're looking really good so far. They've beaten Michigan Dearborn, IU Kokomo, Kentucky Christian, and more recently, last Monday, they beat Hudson Tillotson 80-41. It was a blowout win. St. Francis really getting things going early and just not looking back from there. So the starting lineups have been announced here at the Pat Sullivan Center, and I think we're ready to get underway as the lights come back on. So here we go. Goshen in the purple uniforms, and St. Francis is in their white home uniforms. Starting lineups today, we'll start with Goshen. Starting is number 1, Policia Isom. Also number 21, Sarah Elfrey will be in the center position. Number 24, Carrie Heiler will also get the start. Number 13, Lucia Luque Morales will also get the start. And then finishing things out is number 11, Nasia Gaze will get the start. And then for St. Francis, number 20, Leilani Harris, will get the start. And obviously she's been one of the focal points of the season so far. As we're underway, Simone Harrell will get the start as well, along with Takara Harrison. Also getting the start today is number 3, Laura Lee Thormeyer. And finishing things off as early pressure, and then St. Francis gets the basket to go. So 2-0 St. Francis in the lead as we're underway. Goshen likes to work it down low. They've been extremely good in getting rebounds this season. They've also been pretty good at those points in the paint, but when it's come down to the three-point shots, they just haven't been the best. Try to work it around here to Issam, gets it inside, floater on the way, off the mark. St. Francis trying to push the pressure here. Here's Harrell underneath, puts up the shot, and it's long and off the mark. St. Francis has been quick to start games this season. Here's a mid-range jumper, off the mark, rebound pulled in. Goshen, their goal in this game, playing a ranked St. Francis squad, would be to stay in the game as much as possible, as taking the foul and the contact down low is Harrell. She'll get to the line for 2. Well, Goshen, when talking this afternoon to Coach John McGinty, he actually mentioned that Goshen has had a fantastic schedule. They've played some incredible teams, but he said that in this game, St. Francis, they'd want to win the battle in the paint and the battle on the boards. 4-0 St. Francis in the lead. Pressure for St. Francis, but Goshen tries to break it. There's a steal from Harris. One of the superstars on this team, was just CCAC Offensive Player of the Week just last week. Drives inside, kicks it to the corner. Thormeyer kicks it across. Wide open three from the right wing, goes in. Excuse me, that was Harrell who found Thormeyer. And it's 7-0. St. Francis here with 8 minutes to play here in the first quarter. I want to apologize, no time is available right now on the scoreboard, but the score is updated. Here's a steal and a drive inside, and Thormeyer thought she was fouled. Contact down low, however, no foul. Good defense by Heiler. Early substitution here for the Maple Leafs of Goshen. Elfrey comes out of the game, and coming in is number 5, Kyla Foster, the senior from Canton, Ohio. So she comes into the game right now for Goshen. 9.6 points per game so far. Going in the post is Harris. Fadeaway shot, no good. She gets her own rebound. Wide open three-pointer, and it's a knockdown three by Harrell. Well, St. Francis was looking super, super good when it came to shooting three-pointers in the pregame. They made over 100 three-pointers as a team as they went around the arc. So the last thing Goshen would want to do is to leave them open here. Driving inside again, Thormeyer. That was deflected and out of play. I believe Issam got a hand on that. A couple more substitutions here for Goshen. Finnessy comes out. And coming in is Vivian McSpadden for St. Francis. Harris gets a break. As they'll inbound from the baseline. Coming in is number 32, Bailey Johnson. They inbound, left wing three-pointer on the way. That was a deep three, and it's good. Corinne Fromm just came in off the bench, gets her first 3 points of the game. 13-0 favor of St. Francis. She needed help getting the ball up was Thormeyer. Thormeyer works it around to Harrell. Down low, mid-range jumper, off the mark. On the shot by Johnson. Rebound pulled in by Lillian Knoll. Three-pointer, Goshen needs this, and they rattle it home. Nasia Gaze gets the three. And finally, Goshen gets some points on the board here. With just under 6.5 to play here in the first quarter. Remember, in the men's collegiate game, it's 2 halves. In the women's collegiate game, there's 4 quarters, each of them 10 minutes. Good defense down low by Goshen. Now they're trying to push the tempo. Gaze looking for another shot inside. She goes inside, and it just rims in and out. Rebound pulled in by Johnson. Wide open again. Oh, and it just toilet bowls out on the shot by Harrell. Rebound pulled in. Here's Johnson. Wide open in the corner is Fromm. She can't get it to go, but St. Francis gets another offensive rebound, and they can't get it to go. That's a third offensive rebound in this possession alone. Wow, and Johnson's fouled inside. That was really good. I mean, one of the things that Coach McGinty said coming into this game was to win the battle on the glass. Harris got a break, but Leilani Harris is back in the game. Immediately comes back in after getting a rest. 2 shots. First one falls in. At the line is Johnson. Johnson this season, perfect from the line. That remains. 15-3. There's the press and the steal. Harris kicks it wide open in the corner. A three-pointer won't fall. Another rebound by St. Francis. It's battled for. They're actually going to call a foul here on the Fighting Saints. I think this one's going to go on Johnson, who was trying to grab that rebound. 5.5 to play here in the first quarter. Look at the pressure from St. Francis. And Goshen needs a timeout. Tyra Carver, second season, actually a graduate of Goshen, calls it. 15-3. The lead here with 5:25 to play. Appreciate all of you joining us this evening here in Joliet. St. Francis has had a really good start to the season, like I mentioned. Last year, St. Francis went 25-8. They made it to the NAIA tournament after losing in the conference championship game to Governors State by 6. Made it to the NAIA tournament for another year, and that was actually surprisingly their first time in 3 years after they made it from 2016 to 2022. But last year they beat Rocky Mountain College, but then they lost to the #1 seed in the whole tournament, Dordt University from Iowa. And Dordt is actually, ironically enough, the defending champions. They actually won it last year. So St. Francis, however, coming into this game, is ranked 19th in the preseason polls. Goshen's able to break the press. Here's a jumper off the mark on the shot by Gaze. Rebound pulled in by St. Francis. Here come the Saints the other way. Skip past inside, and there's a foul on Sawinski. So Sawinski's going to head to the line for 2 shots here. St. Francis just has some serious speed, and they are, as the first one's missed from the line, but they are just using that speed. They're using the pressure to their advantage. Sawinski, just over 50% from the line this season. She's just a freshman. And she gets that to go. Second shot good. Look at the pressure by St. Francis. Goshen struggling to get the ball out of their own end, but they do with McSpadden. Now Goshen can get things going on offense. And here's Gaze. Foul inside. Let's see who this is going to be on. This might end up being on Bailey Johnson, and if it is, that's her second. Actually going to get a timeout on the floor. So 16-3. St. Francis in the lead. 4:53 to play in the first quarter. We'll be back after this. We welcome you back here to the Pat Sullivan Center in Joliet. 16-3, St. Francis in the lead if you're just joining us. Goshen is 1-4 coming into this game. St. Francis 4-0. Looking to make it 5-0 with a win tonight. Goshen gets the inbound, the baseline inbound. Feeds it underneath. That one's almost stolen away. Kicks back out here to Foster. Still 18 seconds on the shot clock. They're in no rush. It's a drive to the rim off the mark on the shot by Gaze. By the way, Johnson only has one foul, just to let you know. Here's Leilani Harris kicking it off to her teammate. Inside, it's Sawinski with a jump ball. Possession arrow to Goshen. Well, look at the pressure from St. Francis. They have 4 players in the front court right now putting on the pressure, and Goshen does a pretty good job at breaking that press. Left-handed layup off the mark by McSpadden. She really had an uncontested layup right there. I think she just overestimated her shot. Here's Harris, yet to get on the scoreboard yet. That shot off the mark, rebound pulled in, and an and one. Zanae Singer, the junior from Minnesota, the transfer from Hutchinson Community College, gets it to go. And it is an and one, so she'll go to the line for 2. Or excuse me, for 1. Trying to convert from the line, and she does. What a start for St. Francis, 19-3. They are in complete control of this game with under 4 to play in the opening quarter. Double team pressure on the ball. Great pressure by Mia Kennelly, and they get the steal. And here comes the rush here. Harrison kicks it to the right wing. Three-pointer on the way, and Kennelly gets it to go. Goshen only 3 points here. Another steal by St. Francis. They got a 3-on-1. Inside, it's Harrison again. That one's off the mark. Long pass ahead, nobody back for St. Francis. And Lillian Knoll gets an uncontested layup. Maybe St. Francis getting a little bit overambitious. Harrison, defended by Issam. Gets it outside to Kennelly. Harrison, they're feeding the offense through her, and it's working so far. She's a floor general. And a 3 from the left side. Kennelly is 2 for 2 from beyond the arc in this game so far. Foul on the press by Sawinski. So Goshen gets a little bit of pressure averted for now. We see Kyla Smith coming in for Nasia Gaze for Goshen, and then Sawinski gets a rest with Zanae Singer. And it's going to be Maria Pates who comes in for St. Francis. Trying to break the pressure here with Foster. Foster picked up her dribble. She barely gets it across here to Knoll. Now Goshen can get something to go here. Maybe a three-pointer would go a long way. No good from McSpadden. There's a foul committed by Knoll. 2:27 to play here in the first quarter. Actually, that's going to put St. Francis in the bonus. It's going to be a 1-and-1 here. Knoll with the foul. It's going to put Mariah Pates to the line. Pates went 1 for 2 from the line as she hits the first one. 1 for 2 from the line in the win on Monday against Huston Talatsim. She had 3 points in the win. Second one short. And the rebound goes to the Leafs. Those dangerous skip passes, Goshen's got to be careful when they do those, especially when St. Francis is putting on the pressure. Foster, she came off the bench, but she's been in there for the most part here in this first quarter. for the majority of it. Look at the pressure being put on by Poison. 5 on the shot clock. They got to hurry. And a reach-in foul committed by Harris bails Goshen out of a terrible situation. (26-5) lead for St. Francis. Here's Issam, a steal. And here's Harris trying to get on the board. And the and one. Fouled by Foster. What a performance this season so far for Leilani Harris. Coach had a lot of good things to say about her. She is one of the leaders of this team. She tore her meniscus 2 years ago, but he said that she's been so tough through the recovery. Her teammates, even in her injury recovery, saw how much she cared as she gets that and one bucket to go from the line. She didn't get to play as much as a freshman, and a lot of the times in the collegiate game, players just like to transfer and get some playing time as quickly as possible, but she stayed, she gutted it out, and now she's a big part of this team. She had a career-high 31 points in last year's NAIA tournament win over Rocky Mountain College. And like I mentioned before, she was just the CCAC Offensive Player of the Week last week when she put up 23 points on 4 three-pointers made by her against IU Kokomo. So 1:52 to play. Commanding lead for St. Francis. Really, really physical play there on Zion Finizzi. That's going to put Goshen in the bonus as well. So a 1-1 coming up here for Finizzi. It's the first one. Goshen's got to start making baskets, but they're actually doing a good job in breaking the press down, which could be a route to a comeback, even if it seems so far off right now. Still a lot of time left in this game. Harris driving inside, puts up the shot again, and now she's starting to feel it here. Gets the layup to go. Get a travel here on Finizzi with 1:23 to go. Another turnover for Goshen. They're starting to rack up here in the first quarter. I mean, we're only 8 minutes and 37 seconds into this game. St. Francis is on par right now to score 120 points in this game if they continue this. Maybe even more. Driving inside is Harrell. Kicks it to the corner, wide open Harrison. Ooh, used glass right there. She thought the bank was open. Maybe it's not open yet. Here's Thormeyer. Wide open again. Kennelly didn't take the shot. They go inside. Ball stripped away and stolen by Goshen. What a play by Morales to get the steal. Under a minute to play. Open from the right wing. Air ball on the shot there by Heiler. A rare air ball. Thormeyer gets a screen. Get it up top for Pates. She doesn't take three-pointers very often. They'll leave her open from the top of the key. Left corner three. Off the mark from Kennelly, and an over-the-back foul on St. Francis, and Goshen's going to go to the line once again. They're already in the bonus. Pates picks up her first. 19.5 seconds to go in the quarter. And at the end of the quarter, the bonus will end, and both teams will start all over again in the second quarter. First one off the mark from Morales. Morales this season is actually her first Excuse me, she's actually now 3 for 7 from the line. Make that 4 for 8. And she goes 1 for 2. No shot clock for St. Francis. They don't have to be in any hurry. But they're under 10 seconds to go. They got to hurry. Harrison open for 3. A shot from the top of the key rattles in from Fromm. And no time left in the first quarter, and that ends the first quarter. Commanding first quarter for St. Francis. 34-8 lead for the Fighting Saints over the Maple Leafs. Work to do for Goshen in the second quarter. We'll be back at the start of the second quarter after this. We welcome you back here to the Pat Sullivan Center. Commanding lead for St. Francis, 34-8. Leading scorer for the Fighting Saints is Harris with 7. Fromm has 6. Also, Kennelly has 6 as well. 5 for Harrell. And for Goshen, 3 points for Gaze. That was off a three-pointer, and that's it. They only have 8 points. They almost get a steal here on Harrison as St. Francis opens up second quarter. Kick across, open 3, Thormeyer. Rattles in and out, off the mark, rebound pulled in for Goshen. And we're going to get a jump ball here, possession favoring the Leafs. Some substitutions here. Looks like Takara Harrison gets a break. And Riley Sawinski comes back in. Just one player up for St. Francis pressing right now. Back in the first quarter, it was about 3. They go with the trap. And there's a battle for the ball. It's going to be another jump ball possession going to St. Francis this time. So 2 jump balls within just over 30 seconds. I think the referee's trying to figure out. They didn't change the possession arrow initially after the jump ball going to Goshen, so referees were just trying to figure out whether that was a mistake on their part or a mistake at the scorer's table. Go down in the post to Johnson, and we're going to get a travel. So Johnson travels down on the post. She made the basket, does not count. So finally a turnover forced by Goshen. Go inside. There's a foul. Finney's going to go to the line for 2. Second foul on Johnson. 2 shots here for Finney. First one rattles home. Well, Coach John McGinty, 5th season here with St. Francis, overall record of 89-40, excuse me. And they won the CCAC tournament 2022. He's been pretty good as a coach so far. I think they're happy to have a guy like him at the helm of this women's basketball program. They have high expectations this year here in Joliet. Here's Sawinski trying to find her on the backdoor cut, and she's fouled on the inside by Gaze. Well, it wasn't a long break for Harrison, and she's right back in. Getting in the post, Harris with her left, scooping up, can't get it to fall. Smith on the rebound. Here comes Kyla Smith. Smith, baseline. Jumper goes for Heiler. Fast breaks. Has not worked very well for Goshen, but this time it does. Fromm traveled as she got the pass from Harrison. So 2 turnovers already here in the second quarter for St. Francis. They don't like to turn the ball over. They only had 1 in the first quarter. Now they have 2 here in the second. And we're only just over a minute and a half in. Dribbling into some pressure is Finney. Work it around. Baseline jumper falls again for Heiler. She's got the last 4 points for Goshen. It's only a 20-point game. It seemed like a large margin, and obviously it is, but Goshen just forcing turnovers and hitting baskets and hitting shots, and they're slowly cutting into the lead. Get it down to Harrison. That deflected off of Heiler last. Being inbound from the baseline. Looks like Johnson will come out. And it's going to be Zanae Singer, who converted on the and one earlier. They get it straight to her. Sawinski inside. Tough shot off the mark. Rebound inside by Singer. She can't get that one to fall. Rebound pulled in by Finney, who's been a big starting contribution for Goshen in this game. Finney, she's made a few mistakes, but all around she's been pretty consistent. Pulls up for a jumper and gets it to go. And Goshen now in a little bit of a run here. 6-0 Leafs run. Coach McGinty not electing to call a timeout to stop the momentum. And Harris draws the foul inside on Smith. Well, Leilani Harris is somebody that they need to get going this game so far. I mean, she leads the team in points, but when she starts to find her shot consistently, it's hard for other teams to stop. Harrison drops it off. Harris a three-pointer. Off the mark. St. Francis has gone cold. Inside, here's a drive by Smith. Fouled and almost got it to go. Off the mark. Another substitution for the Saints. Harris is going to exit the game, and Fromm will come in. 2 shots coming up here for Smith. First one goes in. This is a really nice run by Goshen right here. They lost in their last game to Cumberland's in Kentucky, 93-36 on Friday. Only shot 7% from the three-point line. The second shot from the charity stripe doesn't go. Cross-court pass, pump fake by Harrell, drives it inside off the mark. That might have been blocked by Finney. McSpadden brings it ahead for Goshen. 6:45 to play in the first half. Floater on the way, will not fall. Rebound falls to McSpadden, who missed the first shot, and then traveling is Heiler. She's been on a little bit of a streak there, making baskets, and she makes a mistake there. Timeout called by St. Francis with 6:35 to play in the first half. We'll keep it here, 34-17, Saints in the lead. Head coach Tyra Carver, in her second season for Goshen, was not happy about the mistake made by Hyler. They need every opportunity they can get to claw their way back in this game. But Carver, like I mentioned, her second season, she took over for Stephanie Miller, who was one of the all-time great coaches at Goshen, 13 seasons with the Leafs. She went to Bradley to coach women's basketball down in Southern Illinois. But Carver stepped up after becoming an assistant coach for Goshen. Served for a few small colleges as assistant coaches in North Carolina, but where she really gets her experience at Goshen is where she played. She played for Goshen in her career. She was all conference and helped Goshen make the NAIA semifinals in 2016. St. Francis trying to get things off quickly, and they do. Great pass inside by Harrison, and the bucket by Singer. Hyler trying to get something to go here. 14 on the shot clock. Look at the pressure defensively for St. Francis. And then a travel. That's really all Goshen could have done on that possession. As Smith is called for the travel, I mean, St. Francis was putting some serious pressure on the Maple Leafs. With 6 minutes to play. Harrison driving inside on Hyler. She really feels like this is an advantage to her, and she gets it to go. Harrison went down in the post, and the rest was history. Just like that, St. Francis, a little timeout called by Coach McGinty. It's all they needed to get back in the driver's seat here in this game. Great bounce pass inside. The assist from McSpadden, and Morales converts. St. Francis, since that first quarter, they've quieted down a little bit. They were on par for about 130 points in this game. Three-pointer right wing, short. Off the mark, Morales not able to pull it down, but it ends up falling to Smith. Smith going coast to coast. Maybe a little bit too ambitious. Rebound pulled in from McSpadden. Risky pass, though, pulled in by Finney. Step back three on the way. It's off the mark. Long pass ahead and uncontested going inside is Harrell. St. Francis, they don't look like they're moving fast, but off the ball they're moving extremely quick. And Harrell, that's why she was able to get so open. Floater on the way, off the mark by Finney. Here comes Thormeyer, coast to coast. Oh, and it just rolls out. Four-person substitution, by the way, coming up here for St. Francis. Pretty much making a hockey line change here. Just over 4 to play. Going inside and can't get the shot to go. It's Smith. But she's fouled. She'll go to the line for 2. It's the third foul called on St. Francis here in the second quarter. Second foul committed by Simone Harrell. All right, we'll take a break. 4:08 to play. Timeout on the floor. 40-19 lead for St. Francis. They're in complete control. We'll be back shortly. All right, after the timeout, 40-19. St. Francis doing a great job right now. They want to head into conference play this weekend with a no-doubt win. And right now they're on track for it. 7 points for Harrell and Harris, 6 for Fromm and Kennelly. And they're getting contributions from Singer as well. She's got 5. They're getting contributions, St. Francis, from all over the court right now. So 4:08 to play in the second quarter. It's going to be 2 free throws here by Smith, who almost converted the and one. 3 fouls on the Saints, 2 on the Leafs. First one rattles in. Coming into this game, Goshen, 70% from the charity stripe and 2 for 2 from the line in that instant for Smith. Three-pointer from Harris, and that's just too much space to leave for Leilani Harris. Remember how many threes she made in the last game. Look at the quick, fast break by Goshen, off the mark by McSpadden. Here comes Thormeyer. Drops it off. Harris trying to go 2 for $1. No, it's off the mark. Rebound pulled in from Foster. Foster getting inside. Wow, what a nice move. That was a nice little fake to the inside. Harris. Three-pointer on the way. It rattles in, and Harris is starting to find her stroke now. Remember, Harris had 4 three-pointers that she made against IU Kokomo, which granted her the CCAC Offensive Player of the Week award last week. Goshen trying to respond quickly. Here's Smith. Inside, and it works. Well, Goshen, I mean, they're doing a decent job right now just hanging in there with 2:45 to play in the first half. 13 points, by the way, now for Harris. Thormeyer drops it off, and off glass it goes in. Easy from Pates. Foul called here on Kennelly. Sometimes you can be so amped up, fired up when doing the full court press, you can just forget how physical you're being. But Goshen not too far away from the bonus here. They made it to the bonus in the first quarter. 4 fouls on St. Francis here. Look at that defense, that trap defense by St. Francis. Foster trying to get something to go. Corner three-pointer on the way. It rattles in. Hyler with a huge shot again. She's been a pretty big factor from beyond the arc today for Goshen. Harris gets a little bit of separation. Kennelly, corner 3 on the way. Off the mark. Shea Carver instantly knew that. Here comes McSpadden. Trying to go at the left, and it's off the bottom of the backboard and out of bounds. So it'll go to St. Francis up by 20. Well, Coach has said he's happy to have so much experience, but he's also excited to give some players that haven't had a lot of experience, some underclassmen, an opportunity to get some experience. And I mean, the amount of substitutions that St. Francis has made in this game so far in the first half, a lot of these players are getting good experience, a lot of underclassmen, freshmen and sophomores, maybe even a couple of juniors that haven't gotten too much playing time in the last couple of years. There's Pates trying to post up. Pates spinning. It's off the shot. It's off the mark. Pulled in by Finney. There's Foster. Skips it across. It's intercepted and stolen away. And here comes Fromm. Coast to coast. A little long on the shot. Second try by Sawinski, and she's fouled with 1:05 to play. Finney picks up her first. First one off the mark. St. Francis, I had mentioned Goshen's free throw percentage coming into this game. St. Francis's is 72%. Second one goes in, 1 for 2 from the line for Sawinski. Look at the full court pressure being applied here by St. Francis once again. This is what they did in the middle of the first quarter, but Goshen's done a pretty good job at breaking the press. As that shot rattles in and out from Heiler. Rebound pulled in by Harrell. Comes Harrison, look at the speed. Wide open, left corner three. Sawinski, no. Off the mark, pulled back down by Heiler. .40 seconds to play in the first half. Finney skips it across. Here's Heiler. 10 on the shot clock. Goshen's got to be mindful of it here. They go inside. Ball's tipped around. Stolen away. St. Francis gets the steal. And here comes the rush. Sawinski. Coast to coast, and it goes in. 50 points, 51 actually, in the first half for St. Francis. And there is a foul committed by Harrell. That'll put Goshen in the bonus with 13.6 seconds to play in the first half. So Finney will have 2 shots here from the line. First one goes in. And what a season for St. Francis women's soccer. Made it to the conference championship game. Just lost last night to St. Ambrose in a rematch of the game played earlier on in the season in Joliet, where St. Ambrose won 2-1. Last night it was 1-0, but St. Francis pulled off some big upsets to make it there. Great season from the women's soccer team. Women's basketball team trying to do something similar. 5 seconds to go. Harrison driving inside with the left, gets it to go with 2 seconds. Goshen's not going to have a chance to get a shot off, and that'll end the first half. Oh, what a first half for the Fighting Saints. 53 first half points. They are really doing a great job. They got 80 against Huston Tillotson just last Monday, and they're looking for maybe 100 here tonight. We'll take a break and be back shortly for some halftime stats. 53-30, St. Francis leading it over Goshen at the half. Well, we welcome you back to the Pat Sullivan Center here in Joliet. Halftime has been reached, but it's a commanding lead for St. Francis. 53-30, the lead for the Fighting Saints. We'll go through some halftime stats here. It's been a great first half for St. Francis, especially Leilani Harris. 13 points. She leads the way for St. Francis. And then 7 points for Harrell, who's second on the team, and then 6 for both Corinne Fromm as well as Mia Kennelly. Both of them have 53 points so far. It's a really good day in assists for Takara Harrison. She has 5 assists and leads the team right now, and then steals. Leilani Harris, 4 steals. That's just incredible numbers so far from Harris, the senior, who obviously has a ton of experience and is showing that here this season so far. She's probably on track for some serious postseason awards, and hopefully St. Francis will be on track for some postseason awards as well, including a conference championship and maybe even an NAIA a deep run in the tournament after falling to Dordt last season. Then for Goshen, leading the way for Goshen with 8 points is number 3, Ziane Finizzi. And then with 7 points is Carrie Heiler. And that's pretty much the extent of how Goshen has scored in this game. So, I mean, 5 points for Kyla Smith, but really they just haven't been able to get much going. They went on a little bit of a run midway through the second quarter. St. Francis called a timeout. Coach McGinty did the smart thing, called a timeout, let things simmer down, and after that, St. Francis pretty much got back to where they left off and pretty much dominated from there. St. Francis, they've really been just getting most of their points, obviously from the three-point line, but really it's just been the turnovers so far for Goshen. 12 turnovers in the first half alone, and you just cannot have that happen. But St. Francis has just found a way to put immense pressure on Goshen to the point where they throw it to an opposing player or they travel with the ball unexpectedly, maybe double dribble. And there's even been some points where there's been drives to the basket and good looks for Goshen, but they just haven't been able to get things going and make baskets that they would claim they can make in their sleep. So far, the shooting at the end of the day for St. Francis, 8 for 18. 3-point shooting here for the Saints. They're getting things going so far. They're actually shooting 38% from 3 overall in the season, but they're doing an extremely good job right now at shooting it here in the first half. So we will take a break with about 7 minutes until the second half starts. 53-30, St. Francis leads it at halftime. We'll be right back for the second half after this. We welcome you back to the start of the second half here in Joliet. 53-30, St. Francis leading it over Goshen. I'm Kyle Mathis. Welcome to the broadcast, or I should say welcome back to the broadcast. I wanted to mention something really quick about what Coach McGinty was saying coming into this game. He was emphasizing that his team would prioritize and focus on controlling the glass, winning the battle on the boards, and so far St. Francis is doing that. Granted, they only have one more total rebound than Goshen, but when it comes to the offensive rebounds, Goshen only has 3. St. Francis has 8 so far, and Singer leads the way with 2 offensive rebounds, and actually majority of the team actually has offensive rebounds for St. Francis as well, over half of the team. So that's the difference in this game so far, it seems. The offensive rebounds leading to second chance points. St. Francis with 12 second chance points, Goshen with none. So we're ready to get started here in the third quarter. Goshen really going to need to start stringing together some defensive stops and getting some baskets to go if they want any chance of coming back in this game, or it's looking like they might drop to 1-5. Goshen already has experience beating a CCAC team. They beat Viterbo, but they lost to IU South Bend, and now they're on track to lose here against St. Francis. Last time these two teams played, which was the first time ever, 2015, St. Francis won that game 98-73. We'll see what Goshen can do here in the second half as we're underway. Goshen to begin with the ball. St. Francis in his own defense here. Turnaround shot, no good from Knoll. Rebound pulled in, but actually not able to be pulled in from Morales. Early substitution here for St. Francis, so they had Pates in immediately, but coming right off the bench is Singer. Now Goshen decides they want to start putting the pressure on. Harris. They work it around. Open. Harrison, three-pointer, left wing, no. Off the mark, rebounded by Smith. Here's Knoll. Here's Smith. Just inside the three-point line, Morales, that shot rattles in and out. Comes back out, rebounded, pulled in by Singer. Look at Harris driving it inside. Pump fake, gets free. Oh, and missed the highlight play. And she's smiling about it. She's being a good sport about it. Drive inside on the other end and a foul on Thormeyer. A minute into the third quarter. 2 shots coming up here for Smith. Smith 3 for 4 from the line so far in this game. Make that 3 for 5. But she gets the second one to go. 53-31. St. Francis trying to break the press, but a travel here on Harrison. Goshen, they flip sides of the court, and then they start pressing like St. Francis was back in the first half. It led to a lot of turnovers for Goshen in the first half, 12 in total. St. Francis has 2 turnovers here in the second half already, and we're a minute and 10 in. Trying to go with the backdoor cut, and there's a foul. This might be on Thormeyer here. If it is, that's her third. So Goshen gets the inbound here on the baseline. Kick it down to Nold. Near turnover, goes inside to Finesi. Driving it inside, looking for contact. We'll actually say it's a travel on Smith. She was looking for the foul. It's a 50-50 call pretty much there from the official. Thormeyer. St. Francis trying to break down the press. You know they work on this in practice. There's no doubt about that. Driving inside is Fromm. Goshen wants a travel. None called. Kennelly. Work it around. Fromm's open. Left wing three. Off the mark. Rebound pulled in from Kennelly. Another offensive rebound by the Fighting Saints. Here's Harris going inside. Can't finish. Another rebound pulled in. This time it's Singer, but they can't get it to go. They had 3 chances on that possession. Couldn't get it to go. Here's Smith driving inside. Hard foul. I think this one might end up going on Fromm. No, it's going to be on Singer. Already 3 fouls on St. Francis, as the first one off the mark from the line by Smith. Second one goes in, so 1 for 2 once again for Goshen from the free throw line. 21 is the lead, so St. Francis in a comfortable situation. They'd obviously want to win this game by as much of a blowout as possible to focus on their next game in CCAC conference play. Great pass inside by Thormeyer, finished off by Singer. Thormeyer has got a knack for looking for an assist. She can really swing the ball around, but she can also score here. Mid-range jumper, short by Knoll. Rebound pulled in by Thormeyer. She's all over the place. Goes inside. Might fancy to take this one herself. No, she won't. She'll kick it out to Harris. Leilani Harris. Fadeaway jumper. Ooh, that looked smooth and silky. Easy from Harris. She had a similar play like that earlier and just wasn't able to make do with it. Swinging around to Smith. Smith pulls up from 3, long and off the mark. Harris grabs the rebound. Look at the speed from Harris. Kicks it over. Thormeyer, open 3 from the wing. Off the mark, rebound, pulled in this time by Foster. Goshen finally does not give up an offensive rebound. It's been rare to come by possessions where they don't. You hate to say it, but St. Francis has been dominant on the offensive glass. Off the mark, Kennelly grabs the board. Kennelly, one-on-one, going inside. Thormeyer, wide open for 3. Off the mark, we get a foul. And looks like this might end up going on. This is actually going to be on St. Francis. They're really picking up the fouls now. Singer's called for her 3rd. They're already up to 4 fouls, and we're just under 4 minutes into the 3rd quarter. 6:16 still to play, but if they get one more foul, Goshen's in the bonus for the remainder of the quarter. That means that they're shooting 2 shots on every foul, even if they're on the floor. There's a mistake and a rare turnover. Gaze turns it over. Here's Kennelly. It's to Fromm. Down low, dive for the ball. This might be a jump ball. Possession favoring St. Francis. So they'll keep the ball. You'd honestly consider that a turnover at this point. If it ends up coming down to it. Doesn't look like it's going to come down to the possession arrow at the end of the game, but there's a turnover. Forced by Goshen. Johnson turned it over, coughed it up. Finney inside, spinning, comes up short on a really nice-looking move. Fromm grabs the board. And Fromm says, what the heck, I have so much space. A lot of contact on Johnson. No foul called, though, on Goshen. They've been quick to call the foul on St. Francis in this 3rd quarter, but that was so much contact underneath. Completely unbiased. Just a lot of contact. Here's Finney. Great move by Finney, knifing through the defense and finishing. Well, there is a swing right there. That could have been 2 free throws for Bailey Johnson on a foul. No foul called, and instead Finney comes in and scores. Finney came into this game averaging 8.4 points per game. There's a foul called on Goshen. That's their second of the quarter. Just under 5 minutes to play in the third quarter. That might end up becoming a timeout on the floor, and it is. Timeout on the floor, 57-34 lead for St. Francis with 4:56 to play in the game, or excuse me, in the third quarter. We'll be back after this. Welcome you back here. 4:56 to play in the third quarter. St. Francis commanding, and they're in control. 23-point lead, 57-34. Leilani Harris leading the way. Really to no surprise, she's been so good this season so far for St. Francis in her senior year. And then Zion Finney leading the way for Goshen in scoring so far. She's been really good, actually coming off the bench as well, and she's only a freshman, so she's obviously got a bright future ahead of her. Playing with this much confidence as a true freshman. Harrison gets inside. That shot might have been blocked. They say off the rebound by Kennelly. She stepped out of bounds. It's another turnover for St. Francis. So Goshen has been quick and keen to force turnovers in this third quarter. The Leafs doing a good job on that end. Here's Sarah Elfrey just checking into the game. Pass down low, intercepted by Harrison. And she turns on the afterburners. Harrison blocked. Oh, what a block. Finney turned it over, but she ends up getting the block anyways, so she made up for it. Here's Gaze inside. That pass deflected out of bounds. Well, that is a upperclassman experience type move by Zion Finney, and she's only a freshman like I mentioned, but she turns the ball over and is the first one back on the fast break to block Harrison for Goshen. Get it inside. Travel called on Sarah Elfrey. Her first action of the game ends up being a turnover. Harrison, Thormeyer. Both teams maybe a little bit sloppier than their coaches would like in terms of the turnovers. Harris going to get a foul inside here on Goshen. That's their third team foul. They'll actually say that's a shooting foul, not going to be on the floor. So Harris is going to shoot 2 free throws here. In the first half, she went 1 for 1 from the line. Didn't have to shoot it at the charity stripe very often. Gets the first one to go in. This season, Harris, 89% from the line. This is exactly where St. Francis wants her. She goes 2 for 2. 4 minutes to play in the third quarter. Look at the pressure. They almost forced a turnover, St. Francis. Heiler's able to get to it. Here's Finney. Going inside, underneath. Oh, what a shot. Finney. That is really, really nice. And little reverse. That is just incredible. She's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. She averaged just under 5.5 points per game in high school, as there's a floater that goes in for Singer. Finney's got it again. She's approaching 20 points. Three-pointer from the top of the key, off the mark by Heiler. Finney was actually the first Goshen freshman to score 20 points in a conference opener, before the conference opener since 2017. Ball on the floor, jump ball, possession favoring Goshen. But obviously Finney is taking control and taking the reins of this offense pretty quickly. She's having herself a great game. Look at the pressure by St. Francis, doing like they did in the first quarter. But this time, Goshen breaks it pretty easily unless they turn it over here. It's a double team, and we're going to get a travel here on Nasia Gaze. Another turnover as we're going to see Finney get a break. And coming in for Finney is Kyla Smith, who's also had a pretty good first half of her own. 3 minutes to play, third quarter. Harrison, wild shot off the mark. Pull back in from Singer, another jump ball. This time it's going to go to the Fighting Saints. But Singer is just on the glass consistently for St. Francis. That is exactly what Coach John McGinty in his 5th season wants to see, especially when they get conference play opened up on the weekend against Governor State on the road. Harris spinning, trying to go baseline, can't find an angle. Shea Carter, 7 seconds on the shot clock. Harrison's got to do something here. They're going to put it in the hands of their superstar, and Harrison gets it to go at the shot clock buzzer. She's a great leader on this team, a senior, Harrison. And she said, get out of my way. Let me do a veteran-type move. Here's Heiler. McSpadden drives inside, kicks it out last second. Trying to find Gaze going inside. Fouled, that's the 5th on St. Francis. That'll put Goshen in the bonus. But you know what? St. Francis had about 4 fouls going against them within the first 2 minutes of the quarter. So the fact that there's only 2:07 to play in this third quarter and they've just picked up their 5th, it's pretty good. And not picking up that 5th foul for 6 minutes. First one goes in from the line for Gaze. Gaze, a dominant free throw shooter. She goes 2 for 2 there. She's 90% from the charity stripe on the season. And Gaze, after making the 2 free throws, comes out. Finney, after taking a short break, comes back in. St. Francis breaks the press. Here's Fromm. Dumps it underneath. Singer goes inside and floats it in. They are using their center to perfection with the offensive rebounds and the post play from Zanae Singer. There's a travel called on Heiler. Another turnover for Carrie Heiler. Zanae Singer, just a junior. She is really having a good game here. She's having a good season so far as well for St. Francis. She came into this game with just under 5 points per game on the year through the first 4 games played. Up and under, Fromm gets it to go. And now St. Francis is about to make it 30. They're up 29 with 1:10 to play in the third. Great backdoor cut, and then coming up short and missing is McSpadden. She had an open lane. It was a great cut. Thormeyer finds the cutter inside. Here's the left-handed layup off the mark from Carver. Just a freshman, just playing in her 5th game. Gonna get a whistle. I think it's gonna be out of bounds going to Goshen. 4 players in the front court for St. Francis putting on the press. Here's McSpadden, gotta hurry. Doesn't have a lot of time to get it across the half-court line. 20 that's going to be a 10-second violation on Goshen. What a big play from Fromm and for Carver. And Sawinski was in there as well, applying the pressure, so St. Francis forces a turnover. We knew the press would end up forcing a turnover eventually. Teams are required to get it across the byline in 10 seconds, or else it's a turnover. So 40 seconds to go. Thormeyer travels as she picked up the ball. So St. Francis forces a turnover, and then they turn the ball over themselves. You know Coach McGinty, he's going to have to tell his team after this game to clean up the turnovers, as there's a block inside by Pates. Great block by Pates. Haven't seen many blocks today for St. Francis. That's only their third. 29 seconds. Heiler, three-pointer from the right wing, off the mark. Rebound pulled in from Morales. Another three-pointer from the corner, off the mark from Finney. There's going to be a foul here. I think it's going to go on St. Francis. I think they're going to call it on Pates here. That'll put Goshen at the line, even if it's on the floor. First one in from Issam. She started in this game for Goshen, but we just haven't seen much from her today. She does have a ton of experience, at least at the high school level, and she's getting that experience here as a freshman. No shot clock for St. Francis, under 15 to play. Here's Harrison. Looks up. Gets a screen from Pates, kicks it over. They work it around. Three-pointer, Carver, off the mark. And no time remaining to get off a shot for Kyla Smith. That'll end the third quarter with St. Francis looking to run out the remaining 10 minutes and move to 5-0 before the new NAIA rankings come out sometime this week. 67-40. St. Francis leads it over Goshen. We'll be back for the fourth quarter after this. We welcome you back to the start of the fourth quarter. 10 minutes to go. St. Francis looking to move to 5-0 before conference play starts on Saturday on the road against Governor State. Then next week at home against their home conference opener against Viterbo. Well, for Goshen, 12 points leads the way for Zion Finney. That's the leading scorer for the Leafs. And then for St. Francis, 17 points for Lonnie Harris. And then 9 points for Zane Singer. Singer, by the way, 5 offensive rebounds. 3 more than the next closest player on St. Francis in that category. Goshen comes out in his zone defense to open up the fourth quarter. 10 on the shot clock. Sawinski drops it underneath the Pates, who can't finish it. Rebounded by Morales. St. Francis has gotten some good looks, but sometimes they've just not been able to convert. Fennessy goes inside, rebounded by Pates off the miss. Here comes Carver. Carver drops it off. Sawinski traveled. Her back foot was lifted as she was trying to pass it across to Harrison. St. Francis in the first 3 quarters of the game, 8 turnovers, and over half of them are in that third quarter alone. But it's 19 turnovers for Goshen, so it's a trade that you'd still want to win if you're St. Francis, and they are winning it. Their defense is obviously extremely talented. Their pressure, extremely exhausting for Goshen. Here comes Harrison, coast to coast. Gets inside, and Harrison finishes. So Goshen most likely going to drop to 1-5. As Heiler pulls up from the right wing, shot off the mark, rebounded by Harrison. Look at how quick Harrison is going coast to coast. Harrison goes inside, and I think we're going to get a foul here on Kyla Smith. I think Smith will be called for the foul. It's going to be 2 shots coming up here for Harrison. 81% from the line, 70 is where St. Francis has gotten to in this game with still 8.5 to play. Second one goes in. They're not even close to reaching their season high. Their season high came in a 104-58 win over Kentucky Christian. However, they were on track to reach 100 points in the first quarter, but obviously the defense starting to step up. Travel again on Goshen. And you just cannot have the turnovers that Goshen has had in this game. 21 so far, and you just can't have that and expect to win against the 19th ranked team in the country. Work it around here, go inside to Pates. Work it around to Fromm. Pumps it off to Pates. Good defense, though, by Goshen. They're putting together a good possession here. 7 on the shot clock. Here's Pates. Trying to get something going here. Puts up a wild shot off the mark. Rebound pulled in from Harrell. And Harrell can't finish. Once again, a miss from St. Francis in a spot where you'd imagine they'd make those shots. Coast to coast now on the shot by Fennessy, and she's fouled. So she'll go to the line for 2. Well, Goshen, after this game, takes on Aquinas College in Michigan at home on Saturday, and then they'll play number 13 Indiana Wesleyan on Wednesday on the road, so it just doesn't get any easier for the Leafs. It's the first free throw off the mark for Fennessy. Fennessy in this game was 6 for 6 before that point. Now 6 for 8. She goes 0 for 2 from the line. Swinging around here. Here's Fromm. I think St. Francis will try to expend the shot clock to its entirety on every possession they have, just to run the clock down with 7:20 to go. Open 3, Fromm, left wing, yes. Cash from Fromm. She's having herself a pretty good game as well. And Goshen able to respond right there quickly. You cannot be upset about the effort that Goshen has made in this game to try to upset a team like St. Francis, who has obviously 2 things on their mind: win the CCAC and make it as deep in the NAIA tournament as they possibly can, as Harrell gets inside and gets that to go. Still a long way to go in this season, but St. Francis is sure as heck off to a good start. Especially if they can ride out the last 6.5 minutes of this game and come away with a win. Step back 3. short on the shot by Finney. Rebound pulled in there by Kennelly. Swing it to Fromm. Fromm drives baseline, puts up the shot off glass and gets it to go. Gonna get a whistle here. Timeout called by Goshen, by Coach Carver. Well, still a lot of timeouts to go for both teams. 2 for Goshen, 3 for St. Francis. I don't think they'll have to use all of them, but it's only a 30-second timeout, so we'll stay here. Goshen is most likely going to come away with the loss in this game. This actually might end up being one of their worst losses of the season. Obviously, Cumberland's takes the cake with 93-36 win. But they actually took IU South Bend down to the wire a little bit. They only lost by 12. And then they beat Viterbo by 14. So St. Francis making a statement. This might be the biggest win that a CCAC team so far has this year on Goshen. Currently leading by, looks like 36 points. But St. Francis obviously projected to be pretty comfortable favorites to win the CCAC this season on the way they've brought back so much talent and the way that they're looking so far playing this year. But their next 3 games are not easy by any stretch of the imagination. They play Governor State on Saturday on the road at University Park in Illinois. And they'll play at home here on Wednesday against Viterbo, who obviously Goshen beat this season so far. And then they'll play at Palos Heights against Trinity Christian on the road in about a week and a half on Saturday the 22nd. Interesting news coming out of Palos, huh? Trinity Christian won't be a school in the next few years. One of the CCAC teams won't be in the conference in the next few years, and there's just so much history with Trinity Christian. We obviously hope for the sake of the CCAC that that's the only school that really has trouble like that with enrollment and funding. 6 minutes to go in the 4th. There's Lillian Knoll going inside, kicking it outside. You know, Kyla Foster had an open shot. She didn't take it. Here's an open shot from the baseline off the mark by Morales. Pulled in. Look at the speed the other way. Going inside and blocked is Malaya Scott. We see the substitutes coming in now for St. Francis, but Coach McGinty said, as we're going to get a foul on the floor. But Coach McGinty mentioned how much he wanted his players on the bench to get as much experience as they could for when some of these seniors graduate and they have to step in that role. Get it inside here to Knoll. Knoll fadeaway shot, gets it to go. Good shot there from Lillian Knoll. Someone has to come back for St. Francis to get the ball. It's Thormeyer. Here's Carver, the freshman from Wheaton, Illinois. Gets it inside, they work it back out. Kennelly. Corner shot on the way, off the mark. No good from Carver. And then Carver comes in and gets a steal, and then she's fouled. What a heads-up play by Carver. Goshen never, ever saw that coming. Lillian Knoll grabbed the rebound and didn't get any indication that Carver was coming in to get the steal. We have a timeout on the floor, 4:49 to play, 78-44, St. Francis in the lead. We welcome you back. 78-44 lead for St. Francis. 4:49 to play in the fourth quarter. Fighting Saints on their way to 5-0. I want to mention an interesting fact about these two programs and how different they are in terms of rebuilding and how they've built this program. St. Francis has made the NAIA tournament in 8 of the last 10 seasons. They've won the CCAC tournament 3 times. And last year they lost to the number 1 seed Dort after beating Rocky Mountain College. Meanwhile, Goshen has only made it to the NAIA tournament once since 2010. That was in 2016 where they beat Concordia, St. Xavier, who was actually from the CCAC, and Dakota Wesleyan, as Carver gets that one to go, before they lost in the national semifinals to Southern Oregon. That was actually when Tyra Carver, the current head coach for Goshen, was on the team. So it's crazy. I mean, 8 out of the last 10 seasons, St. Francis has made the tournament. Only once in the last 10 years, or I should say 15 years, has Goshen made the NAIA tournament. Just different programs in different places. Going down low, that one hits the bottom of the rim off the mark from Elfrey. Getting inside Hyler's shot, and she's fouled. Third on St. Francis in the quarter. Hyler gets it to go from the line. Carrie Hyler from Nab, Indiana, shot the highest three-point percentage in her high school history. Hit her career high 4 3-pointers in the loss to IU South Bend earlier on in the season as she gets the second one to go. Just hasn't been the same game for Goshen tonight as it was against IU South Bend and Viterbo. Different CCAC opponent here in the Fighting Saints. Driving it inside to Scott. Work it around here to Sawinski. Tough shot off glass, will not fall by Kennelly. Rebound fought for on the ground. It's loose. It comes out to Carver, who realizes that she's wide open. Her three-pointer won't fall. Can't be wrestled in by Elfrey. Now Scott is pressured in the corner. High IQ play from Scott. She throws it in off of Smith. So it'll be an inbound here for St. Francis. They'll go inside to Johnson. Bailey Johnson spinning inside. Has a mismatch, but what a block there from Elfrey. Wow. Great block from Sarah Elfrey. Actually came in from England, transferred from Fort Hays Tech Northwest after 1 year, where she averaged just under 5 points per game. Helsawen, England. I don't want to butcher that, but that's where she's from, if I said that correctly. There's another block inside on Goshen. It's 2 blocks on 1 possession. Elfrey has 3 blocks this season heading into this game. 3:40 to play. Get it inside. Johnson has trouble with that one. Got to get up the shot with 1 second to go on the shot clock. There's a shot clock violation. That's the first of the game on either team, coming with 3.5 to play in the fourth. Here's Smith going inside. Got the step. Good defensive pressure there from Sawinski. Grabs the rebound. Kicks it ahead to Kennelly. Here's Scott. Scott going inside, floats it up, short. Rebound grab by Goshen. Here's Hyler. Up ahead for McSpadden, and she gets it to go on the fast break. But it's just too little, too late for Goshen. They're going to fall to 1-5 on the season. St. Francis is going to move to 5-0 heading into conference play on Saturday. Great give and go. That's incredible. My goodness, what a pass from Johnson, finding Scott for the layup. St. Francis getting a little flashy here late in the game. Jump shot off the mark by Elfrey. Rebound pulled in by the Saints. Up at the high post, here's Johnson. Dumps it off. Corner pass here to Sawinski. Sawinski gets inside. Nice move by Sawinski. .36-point lead restored for the Saints with 2:10 to go. Baseline drive by McSpadden. Dumps it off underneath, and there's another steal. It's Shea Carver with a nice play. Timeout called by McGinty. At least I thought so. I think they just called the timeout to make substitutions. So we see Elena Poison in for St. Francis for the first time. A freshman from Plainfield, Illinois, went to Marion Catholic High School. Work it around here. Driving it inside of Sawinski. Sawinski uses the body and travels. If there's one negative about this game for St. Francis, it's the turnovers. Everything else has been perfect. The turnovers has been the one thing that they would need to work on heading into conference play. But everything else has been pretty good. St. Francis is looking like a really, really good team here in the NAIA. As that one's kicked out of bounds. They say it went off of a Carver last. .132 to play. Here's Morales. There's a steal. Jumping in front of the pass was Sawinski. And Sawinski gets it to go coast to coast. .86 points for St. Francis so far, and that pass is a little too high. It's a turnover. St. Francis, it's a crazy, crazy stat to know, but they've reached 80 points in all 5 of their games this year. 80 points is actually the lowest point total they've scored all year. And they did that 3 times. They scored 104 against Kentucky Christian. And they're up to 86 here. Three-pointer on the way. Off the mark by Poison. Rebound pulled in. Off the mark on the shot from Kennelly. 53 seconds to go. 10 on the shot clock here. Pump fake. Scott goes inside. Lost a handle. They're going to say it belongs to St. Francis with 9 on the shot clock. Inbounding it here is Poison. Gets it into Pates. Pates lost the handle. Poison, a 3 from the corner. Off the mark, rebounded by Carver. That gives St. Francis a fresh 20. That shot is blocked. Look at them fighting on the floor like it's a tie game. We're going to say possession goes to St. Francis. They're also going to get a fresh shot clock, I believe. Or no, that's actually going to be 27 seconds. They call a foul at the end of the day on Goshen. Go inside quickly. Oh, another block. Well, they're actually going to say it's a foul on Finney, who is not a fan of that. So Carver will get 2 shots with 32 seconds to go. Carver hits the first shot. Obviously, she seems like she'd be the future for St. Francis. She's only a freshman. Coach McGinty wants to see how well the future of this program plays. Maybe not as high-pressure situations as close games, but they've done a pretty good job, the substitutes for St. Francis today. 25 seconds to go. 2-second shot separating shot clock and game clock. So this should be the last possession of the game. Kyla Smith going inside. Lost the handle on it. Goes out of bounds at 14 seconds, and that's going to do it. St. Francis can dribble out the clock. Goshen saying, well, hey, the other CCAC teams didn't play us as tough. Well, the other CCAC teams are not ranked. St. Francis is the only one ranked in the NAIA polls at 19th. And they're 5-0 to begin the season as they win it 88-48 a 40-point blowout over Goshen, who's 1-5. What a win for St. Francis. They'll start conference play on Saturday against Governor State on the road, and then they'll play their home opener in conference play next Wednesday, a week from tonight, against Viterbo, who Goshen actually beat. Take a look at some final stats for St. Francis and then close up shop here. The leader for St. Francis, Leilani Harris, who ended with 17 points, 13 points point performance, by the way, for Corinne Fromm. Great performance from her. And then 12 for Takara Harrison. That's the leaders for St. Francis. And then a 12-point effort by Ziane Finizzi led the way for Goshen. Like we mentioned, St. Francis will be on the road against Governor State on Saturday and then at home next Wednesday against Viterbo. But that'll do it for the broadcast here from the Pat Sullivan Center in Joliet. We appreciate everybody on the broadcast tonight. As I'm Kyle Mathis signing off, St. Francis wins it 88-48 over Goshen, moves to 5-0. For now, we say so long and good night. We'll see you next time.